Hey bookaholics, it's Isabel and welcome to another video. So today I'm actually going to be doing my first Book Awards 2020. So I haven't done a Book Awards thing for my video before, but I kind of thought about this. I did see other people have done different kind of awards for the end of the year and just like sharing their favorite books with you guys or worst books, and I kind of wanted to do this in my own little way and just kind of share with you my reading year. I kind of already did a little bit of this. It's my tier ranking all the books that I read in 2020. I will link that up here for you guys to go check out, but that's like all the books I read in 2020, and this is just like certain different categories of my favorite books, and I think I have one category for my worst books for this award show that I have for you today. For my book awards, I'll have 5 nominations for each category. So the categories for my awards are Best YA Contemporary, Best Adult Contemporary, Best Romance, Best LGBTQ Book, Best Sequel, Best First Book in a Series, Favorite Cover, Favorite Character, Favorite Villain, Favorite Couple, Worst Book of 2020, and Best Book of 2020. So we have about 12 categories here, and each one will have a winner. I'm hoping you guys are excited as I am, and yeah, let's just get right into the awards. So for the first category, Best YA Contemporary nominations. So the nominations are On the Come Up, The Nowhere Girls, The Book Thief, The Black Flamingo, and How to Make Friends with the Dark. So these 5 were some of my top YA contemporary, and I really loved them. On the Come Up by Angie Thomas follows Brie as she tries to make her dream of becoming a rapper a reality, and she's faced with a lot of different obstacles, mostly that she doesn't have the confidence in it, but when something happens in her school, it really pushes her to deliver this song, this rap song that she has written, and it becomes viral, and it doesn't necessarily have the best reception. It was really enjoyable. I really loved it. The Nowhere Girls by Amy Reed follows 3 girls. One of the girls, Grace, she's just moved into town and learns about the unfortunate scandal that happened in this town where a girl was gang raped and then bullied out of town. When Grace meets 2 other girls, Rosina and Erin, she builds a friendship with them, learns about this other girl that was pretty much bullied out of town, and she comes up with the idea of the Nowhere Girls, and they start banding together all these girls. I really love this book. It was such a great feminist book, but also just tackled the hard subject of rape very well. And just the characters in here, they all had their own personalities, they all had their own difficulties and obstacles to overcome, but it was such a great experience to follow their stories and see where it took them. It was such a great one. The Book Thief by Marcus Zuzak is a very popular one. So many people have read this book and absolutely loved it, and I totally agree. This book was such a wonderful read. The writing and the plot and just how everything kind of comes together in this book was such a great experience, and I absolutely loved it. So this book follows Liesl Memger. She is adopted by this couple after her mom gives her up because the home that she was living in was not good for Liesl, and just everything that was happening with World War II, she just didn't want her daughter to be around it. When the mom is bringing Liesl and her brother to this family, her brother unfortunately dies, and this is kind of when Death, the narrator, starts following Liesl's story. This is just such a great book. It's so powerful, and it was such a great read. The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta is a poetry novel. It follows a boy named Michael who is a mixed race, and so he has a hard time of finding a identity. As he's growing up, he learns that yes, he's gay, and he is Greek and Jamaican, but he's not both, and he has a hard time finding his identity and fitting in. And then he also learns that he is into drag. So it follows his journey as he learns to accept himself, finds people who accept him, and it's just a wonderful story to follow, and I loved his story. How to Make Friends with the Dark by Kathleen Glasgow, this was also a very relatable book for me. It follows a girl who loses her mom very early on in the story, and she is put into foster care, and she just has all of these different things that changes in her life. You just follow her journey as she goes through grief, as she goes through her own coping mechanisms, and just everything she goes through in her journey of finding herself after losing the one most important person in her life. So these 5 books, I had a hard time narrowing down which one would win because they are all such wonderful books and they all had different meanings for me and they all had different strengths. But one has to win in this category, and the winner of the YA Contemporary category is The Book Thief by Marcus Souza. It's just such a wonderful book. It's written very well, the characters were really well developed, and just the story itself was just so powerful. Unfortunately, even though many of these books end up being 5-star and were just wonderful, this one was a clear winner for me. Okay, so the next category is Best Adult Contemporary Nominations. So the nomination for this category is Beach Read, The Storyteller, The Cactus, When No One Is Watching, and Eleanor Oliphant Is Completely Fine. So Beach Read by Emily Reed follows 2 characters, August and January. It just follows as they both go to this small town and live in these cottages and trying to write their next novel. So August is writing his next acclaimed novel and January is writing her next romance. And they're both stuck in their writing. And so when they meet, they decide to switch genres. So August is going to write the next romance and she is going to write the next literary fiction. This book was just really fun to follow. I loved seeing their journey. So it was just a fun novel to follow and I really enjoyed their story. And The Storyteller by Jodi Picoult follows 2 different timelines actually. It follows Sage Singer in kind of like the present time, and she meets this Joseph Weber who comes to her bakery. He just seems very lonely and she starts kind of taking him home, and then she learns that he was actually a Nazi and her family are Jewish. So it just follows her journey as she kind of comes to grips with the fact that this guy murdered a bunch of her family and her ancestors. Also follows another gentleman, I can't remember who he is, but he's like a Nazi hunter, and he learns that this Joseph Weber was a Nazi. It follows their present as they're navigating this, but also Joseph Weber's past and the past of Sage's grandmother while she was living in World War II. So it just follows these 2 storylines. I really enjoyed the World War II storyline. It was so gripping and just so heartbreaking. The present time wasn't as fascinating. Just the World War II timeline was just so fascinating that it ended up being a 4 out of 5 stars book for me, and I really enjoyed it, and I think it definitely deserved to be in this nominations. The Cactus by Sarah Haywood follows Susan Green as she kind of navigates the fact that she is pregnant and her mom just passed away, and they're trying to figure out how to separate all this different things that she had. And honestly, this book surprised me. When I first started this book, I really did not care for Susan at all. She was a hard character to follow. I didn't really care for her. She just had these different thoughts that didn't really align with mine, and I just could not relate to her. But as the story progressed, you kind of understand how she got to that, but you also just understand that this is who she is, and there are just people who are just who they are, and you kind of have to accept that. Honestly, to be able to write a character that way and still have her come out being a sort of nice person but also someone you can relate to is very talented author, and yeah, I enjoyed it. When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole follows this neighborhood. The neighborhood is starting to go through the gentrification process, and it just follows Sydney Green as she's trying to navigate this and trying to figure out what's going on, where her neighbors are going, and what is really happening in her neighborhood. And it just follows as this mystery slowly unfolds. It was enjoyable. Like, I really enjoyed the kind of like the first third of the book. The last third of the thriller part of it wasn't quite as enjoyable and kind of really had to suspend my belief, but I still really enjoyed this book. There was a history to it that I really enjoyed. Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman was such a delightful book to follow. I really enjoyed Eleanor Oliphant's character because she was just such an enigma and just interesting as you slowly get revealed to her character and to her personality and to who she is and how she became who she was. It was just such a fascinating book to follow. So out of these 5 nominations, the clear winner for me is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. Out of all these books, I feel like this one just had such a depth to it and really dived into the character, and I just really enjoyed it, and there was just an emotion to it. I can see why this one is a very popular book in the book community. And the next category is Best Romance nominations, and the nomination for these is Love Your Life, Boyfriend Material, Beach Read, Would Like to Meet, and Don't You Forget About Me. So Love Your Life by Sophie Kinsella really surprised me because when I first started it, it definitely had an insta-love to it. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of insta-love, but this one did it in such a way that was different from other insta-love. Ones that don't do it right usually have the insta-love happen in like such a short amount of time, and then it will kind of end with that. This one had the insta-love right at the beginning, but the rest of the novel kind of navigated as the relationship progressed and kind of burnt after, because it is insta-love and they don't know each other that well. They don't know everything about each other. So they have to learn about each other after they kind of get out of that honeymoon phase that insta-love is and start to navigate who they actually are. And I really enjoyed that kind of take on the insta-love in this book. It was such a great novel and I just had so much fun with it, and I really enjoyed this book. Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. This book actually really surprised me because I never heard about it before. I was just kind of scrolling through all my audiobooks on my subscription, and I just happened to come across this book, and it intrigued me, mostly because it did remind me a lot of Red, White, and Royal Blue. So Boyfriend Material follows Luke and Oliver. So Luke is kind of semi-famous because he is the son of a very famous rock star back in the 80s or something like that. Luke started to become more famous again once his dad was coming out of rehab and started kind of getting back into the spotlight. And so he has to make sure that his reputation isn't broken down when photographers start following him again, because he has this job that doesn't want that publicity. He wants to find a man, I guess I should say, who will kind of raise his reputation. And so here comes in Oliver Blackwood. They create this fake relationship, and so it just follows them as they go through this journey, and honestly it was such a wonderful book to follow and I really enjoyed it. And then we have Beach Read by Emily Henry. I already talked about this one, so you kind of know what my feelings are for this. Would Like to Meet by Rachel Winters. So this one was also very surprising. I bought it because it did sound very cute and right up my alley, but this one really surprised me because I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars, or maybe like 4.5 out of 5 stars. I can't quite remember. I really enjoyed this book. I had so much fun with it. It follows Evie Summer as she's in this job with this film agency. Their screenwriter, Ezra something, he's supposed to write this romance screenplay and he is not doing it. So in order to get him inspired to start writing, she creates a deal that she will create all these rom-com cliches and show that these kinds of romance cliches actually do work in real life. She goes on this journey of creating all of these different rom-com cliches happen, and it's just such a delightful book. I really enjoyed it and I had so much fun with it. It was really cute. Don't You Forget About Me by Vari McFarland. This one also surprised me a little bit because I've been a little reluctant to read it. I'm not too sure why. I do enjoy like the past love coming back and they start rekindling their romance, but I don't know, I just wasn't quite into this one, but I finally decided to pick it up and I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. This book follows Georgina as she is fired from this restaurant that she actually didn't really care to work in, and she kind of comes across this other job to be a kind of temp for this one event, and then she gets hired, and the person who co-owns this restaurant is someone who she dated back in high school. When she meets him again, he does not remember her. So it just kind of follows as she's like trying to figure out why he doesn't remember her and trying not to let him remember her because they had a bit of a falling out. So I did actually thoroughly enjoy this one. For this category, I was debating between Would Like to Meet and Boyfriend Material, and I've been debating between these two for so long, and I think finally I've decided Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall is the winner of this nomination. I just thoroughly enjoyed this book. I could not let this one win. I don't know, I have such an attachment to it now that I just love it. Next category is Best LGBTQ Book Nominations. So the nominations for this category is Heartstopper, Boyfriend Material, The Black Flamingo, Only Mostly Devastated, and The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. So Heartstopper by Alice Oseman was such a delightful graphic novel to read. I've only read one before this, and that was for a class. So this is like my official one that I've read without any prompts for it. I thoroughly enjoyed this one. It was really cute. I thought the characters were very cute. The drawing was very, very fun to follow, and like it wasn't as hard to read as I thought it was going to be. So yeah, I enjoyed this one. And then Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. I've talked about this one already, so we'll just leave that. I've talked about The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta, but this one is part of this nominations as well. And then Only Mostly Devastated by Sophie Gonzalez. Only Mostly Devastated was one that I didn't really hear about, and once I heard about it, I just instantly needed it in my hands. So this one is a Grease retelling, but it's gay. It follows Will and Ollie as they have this summer fling. Will moves to this new town, and lo and behold, Ollie is there. So it just follows as they go through this Grease kind of retelling, and I just really thoroughly enjoyed this one. I just had so much fun with it. And then The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab might be a little bit of a surprise that it's on here, but this one's on here because it does feature two characters who are bi. Addie LaRue is in this unprecedented situation of being an immortal, but every time she meets someone and once they leave, they totally forget about her. And so it kind of just follows her, and she has different relationships with both men and women, as well as the other character who comes in here, Henry, who is bi and has relationships with both men and women. So I felt like this one was a good one that had good bi representation. Not even just bi, it's more maybe pansexual, because it seems like Addie just kind of falls in love with whoever kind of captures her attention. So I really enjoyed this one, and I was thoroughly surprised that it had some LGBTQ representations. Now, the winner of this category is The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta. I thoroughly enjoyed this book, and it definitely deserves to be the winner of this one because it just follows a character who really learns how to accept himself and learns how to find people who accept him, and just goes through this whole journey, and I really thoroughly enjoyed following his journey. So the next category is Best Sequel nominations. So the nominations for this is The Toll, Our Dark Duet, The Devil's Thief, A Court of Mist and Fury, and The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So The Toll is the third book in the Arc of the Scythe trilogy. The Arc of the Scythe pretty much just follows in this world where immortality is a thing, and the only way that you die is by the hand of one of these scythes. And the scythes are chosen and are put in the apprenticeship under another scythe. In this, there's two apprentices who go into this, and they are Citra and Rowan. It kind of just follows this story, and this is the third book in the Arc of the Scythe. Our Dark Duet by Victoria Schwab is the second book in the Monsters of Verity novel. So it's the second book in the duology, and this one just follows two characters, Kate Harker and August Flynn. So August Flynn is kind of the monster. Kate is the daughter of the person who kind of keeps the monsters at bay in the other area. It's hard to explain, honestly. This world was very fascinating to learn about and read, and I really enjoyed it. I'm terrible at describing it because I feel like I'm gonna give spoilers if I try to, so that's all I got for you. So the next book is The Devil's Thief by Lisa Maxwell. I actually don't have this book anymore. The Devil's Thief is the second book in the Last Magician series. This is just a magical world where magic is kind of contained in this one area of New York. And so it follows kind of these two timelines. So we follow this one character who has the magical ability to travel back in time. And so it just follows as this world kind of unravels and she learns that not everything is as it seems. This was definitely a fascinating novel. The next sequel is A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. Now, if you've been watching my videos for a while, you know my thoughts on this, and I'm probably a little bit surprised that it's on a nomination list, but I've only read so many sequels, so I needed 5. So this one made it. But this one is the second novel of ACOTAR trilogy, I guess. This one follows fairies and this one girl who makes a deal with the devil and has to live with the beast. And this is the second novel in that series trilogy thing. You guys know my thoughts on this? It was not the best. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Susan Collins. So this is kind of like, not quite a sequel, but it's kind of like a prequel to The Hunger Games. So I included it in here. And this one follows Cornelia Snow's journey into kind of creating the Hunger Games into what it eventually becomes. Follows him as he's like a teenager. He is a mentor to the District 12 girl tribute of the Hunger Games. And I think it's like the 8th Hunger Game, the 10th annual Hunger Games. The winner of this category is The Toll by Neil Shusterman. I doubt this was a prize because this one was clearly the winner out of all the nominations in this category, but I am still really happy that this one won because although it wasn't my favorite of the trilogy, it definitely did beat out the other nominations in this category. So yeah, this one's the winner. Okay, next category is Best First Book in a Series nominations. And the nominations are Chain of Gold, Six of Crows, Heartstopper, Vicious, and The Fellowship of the Ring. Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare is the first book in the Last Hour Books trilogy. And so this one follows a few years after the Infernal Devices, and Will and Tessa have 2 children, Lucy Herondale and James Herondale. So it follows them and Cordelia, who is the cousin of Jem. I thoroughly enjoyed this one. It definitely wasn't my favorite Cassandra Clare. There was definitely a lot more story than there was plot. Like, there was just a lot of different subplots and there wasn't really a plot, but I still really enjoyed being part of this world again. And then we have Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. So this one took me a while to finally pick up, but I finally did, and I really did enjoy it. I enjoyed the characters and the plot. I feel like because I had lower expectations of this book, I did thoroughly enjoy it a lot more than other people who maybe have high expectations, because although this does have a heist in it, the heist is not the main plot. And it's definitely a lot more character driven, and it definitely has a lot less action scenes than I would have expected, but I still really enjoyed it, and I still really enjoy the characters. Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. I have already talked about this one, so I won't talk about it again, but it is a nomination in this category. Vicious by V.E. Schwab. So this one I thoroughly enjoyed. I absolutely love this book. It had such great characters, such a great plot, and I just really enjoyed following Victor and Eli's story. It was just fantastic. I enjoyed it so much. This one's really hard to describe. Victor and Eli were roommates, and they come across this ability to kind of make themselves superhuman. It just follows as they have a fallout. Eventually Victor just wants to kill Eli. Like, it's such a fascinating novel, and I really enjoyed it, and the writing was just fantastic. The Fellowship of the Ring, so the first book in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and this one was really enjoyable. I read the audiobook. I enjoyed following Frodo and Sam's story because Frodo and Sam are like my favorite. They're my absolute favorite, so I really enjoyed them. I did enjoy this book. It was so much fun. It definitely was maybe a little bit too long, and there was definitely a lot of things that I didn't quite follow, and there was just a lot of information, but I still really did enjoy this one. And the winner of this category is Vicious by V.E. Schwab. I doubt you're surprised by this because I've been praising this one throughout this whole year, because I read it kind of at the beginning of the year and I've just been like gushing over it afterwards. But I really thoroughly enjoyed this book, and it definitely definitely deserves the win in this category. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this one. The next category is favorite book covers nominations. So for the nominations of this one, it's the books that I have bought this year. So it's not necessarily that they're published this year, it was that I bought them this year in 2020. And these are the 5 nominations for this category: The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, Clap When You Land, Little Bookshop on the Seine, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and I'll Be the One. The winner of this category is Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. This one I have not read yet, but I definitely have it on my list. But every time I look at this cover, it is just so gorgeous and I love it. It's such a gorgeous cover, and it's one that I just absolutely love. And also we all love when they have gorgeous nakedness, so I love it. It deserves the win. The next category is favorite character nominations. So the nominations for these is Addie LaRue from The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, Lucy Herondale from Chain of Gold, Victor Vale from Vicious, Liesl Meminger from The Book Thief, and Jesper Fay from Six of Crows. And the winner for this category is Victor Vale. So Victor Vale just, I absolutely love this character. He was so fascinating. I was debating between Victor Vale and Addie LaRue, and honestly, Victor Vale, considering that he hasn't been living as long as Addie LaRue, I found him more fascinating. Definitely Addie LaRue is fascinating in her own right, but Victor Vale was just, I don't know. I just love his character, and I just love who he was and his determination, and I don't know, but he was just fascinating to me. The next category is favorite villain nominations. So the nominations for this category is Eli Cardale from Vicious, Luke from The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, Cornelia Snow from The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, Tamlin from A Court of Mist and Fury, and Godard from The Toll. And my favorite villain is Eli Cardale from Vicious. So it shouldn't be too much of a surprise because I absolutely love Vicious and their characterization. So obviously Victor and Eli would end up being my favorites because they just are, I don't know, they just have this dynamic with each other. I don't know why, but I just love them so much, and yeah, they're just the best rival, I guess. The next category is favorite couple nominations. So the nomination for this is Will and Ollie from Only Mostly Devastated, Evie and Ben from Would Like to Meet, Luke and Oliver from Boyfriend Material, Addie and Henry from The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and Ava and Matt from Love Your Life. And the winner for this category is Luke and Oliver from Boyfriend Material. I absolutely loved following these two characters. They were just so much fun, and I just swoon every time I think about them because they're just so adorable. Even though there was some miscommunication in here, I still thoroughly enjoyed watching their journey. And then the next category is Worst Book of 2020 nominations. And the nominations for this category is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne, Forbidden by Tabitha Suzuma, Ship It by Britta London, Not the Girl You Marry by Andy J. Christopher, and A Court of Mist and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. I've talked about these ones pretty thoroughly. The Hating Game by Sally Thorne follows these two co-workers who are rivals in this publishing house, and they go on this weird journey of trying to one-up each other or something. I did not finish this book. I DNF'd it because I just could not do this book. I could not. I was not enjoying the romance because there really wasn't a romance. I don't know why this one had so much hype, but I just did not. I did not like this book. And then Forbidden by Tabitha Suzuma. Yeah. No. Did not like this story. I did not like the plot. The plot involved incest, and that's not why I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it because of how it was handled. It just wasn't handled very well. It just honestly seemed like if you do this, then you'll just... That's the idea I got. And sorry, that was a bit spoilery. And then Ship It by Britta London. I just thoroughly did not like the character, did not like the plot, and it just seemed kind of simple and like didn't really dive into what this girl was doing and like how wrong she was, and I don't think she really learned anything. And then Not the Girl You Married Honestly, I feel like I just didn't like this one as much because it had the hype of being like a gender swap of How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. I absolutely love that movie, but I did not love this book at all. And then Court of Mist and Fury, yeah, I don't think I have to talk about this one much. I already talked about it a little bit. And yeah, just did not like this one, especially Tamlin. Did not like him. No, did not like him at all. And the winner of being the worst book of 2020 goes to Ship It by Britta London. Did not like this book. Oh my god, I hated it. And you might be surprised that not the DNF one here, but I feel like because I DNF'd it, I couldn't actually make it the worst book of 2020 because I didn't finish it. So I did finish Ship It, and I thoroughly did not like it, and I thoroughly did not like it right after I read it. The other ones here, I had to think about it a little bit and kind of navigate why I didn't like it, but Ship It, I instantly did not like it. So this one deserves to win. And the last category is Best Book of 2020 nominations. And the nominations for this is Vicious, The Nowhere Girls, The Book Thief, Would Like to Meet, and The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. So I have talked about these books already throughout my other categories, so I shouldn't have to talk about them again, but you can kind of see the ones on here were ones in my favorites of other categories. Nowhere Girls was in my YA contemporary, Vicious was in my best first book in a series, Would Like to Meet was in my best romance, The Book Thief was also in the contemporary, and The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I think that was only in one other category. No, it was in another one. I can't remember. LGBTQ, right. This one was a hard one because I had to navigate through all of these other ones and they all are fantastic. Vicious and The Book Thief were definitely the top ones out of all 5 of these, and I had to navigate between which one I loved better. And the winner, the book that was my absolute favorite of 2020, definitely goes to The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. This book, my god, it has great meaning, it has a great storyline, it has great characters, and it has such a wonderful narrator and is written so well that this one just, it could not win. Like it had to win this book awards. Like it had to win this nomination. It's definitely probably one of my top favorites of all time. It obviously had to win this whole book awards. Like this is the #1 book of 2020. I can definitely see the hype in this. I can definitely see why people love it, and I totally agree. So this one's definitely the winner. So yeah, I'm hoping you guys enjoyed my book awards 2020. So I'm hoping to make this an annual thing for every year. But yeah, I had an enjoyable time doing this. I had an enjoyable time making everything, and I'm really happy with the winners, and I'm really happy with the nominations, the categories, and everything, and I'm hoping you guys enjoyed it as well. Let me know your thoughts down below about my book awards and how you enjoyed it, and definitely subscribe if you have not yet. I make a video every week, and I'm hoping I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!